Okay, my goal today is to give you an education. The education we should have had in school. Isn't it odd that we work all our life for a paycheck and yet we've never learned what to do with our money? We never got an education in school. We never had required courses on qualified plans versus unqualified, taxation, inflation. We were never prepared to what to do with our money. Of all things we're ignorant of, this is it. So here's your education. I'm going to cover a little history and tell you why really the deck is stacked against you with an IRA or a 401k. So let's talk about the history of the 401k. It was birthed in 1980. Okay. Now, it was really a remarkable time because what that meant was up until that time, only the wealthy was in the stock market, and so now all of a sudden the common guys, you and me, we got to put a couple bucks a week in the market, and now we were in the stock market. Ameritrade came out with a $7 trade, and all of a sudden every common person was able to invest in the money in the market, and we had a flood of new money coming into the economy. I mean, it was just an incredible period of time. It was just a flood of new money. Okay. And it was also interesting to note that at the time, kicking the can down the road of taxation seemed like a really good idea because the median tax rate at that point was 55.1%. And so the hope was that we were going to be in a lower tax rate at that time when we would retire. And back then it was true. In 1980, made a lot of sense. We were in a high tax bracket. But what we're finding out now is, first of all, we're in a very low tax bracket. And it's also interesting to note, you want to know what the highest tax rate was in history? 94% after World War II. Isn't it crazy? History can repeat itself. Don't be fooled. But what we're finding now is we're in a low tax rate, and the odds of being in a lower tax rate when we retire is not really good. For starters, we've lost our 4 best tax breaks. The kids are gone. The house is either paid off or most of the interest is gone. We've lost that huge deduction. You're no longer contributing to a 401k. And for most folks, they don't give as much for charitable giving. The reason is they're making less money and they have more time. So they donate more of their time, less of their paycheck. And so now we're also looking into a much higher tax rate down the road. Joe Biden promised us more tax breaks or more tax raises. The Trump tax plan will go away in 2026 if Congress does nothing. And guess what? They're very good at doing nothing. And the deficit is out of control. So the chances of you having a higher tax rate down the road is probably 100% or close to it. So the 401k, the concept of pushing off taxes for a later date doesn't make the sense that it did in 1980. Times have changed. We have to change with them. And also the internet was rolled out. So what an incredible time. And of course, the NASDAQ, the high-tech stocks went through the roof. And a lot of people refer to this period as the Roaring 20. So when we look back in a history of the stock market, I tend to ignore this 20-year period. I like to go back for a 20-year period. The last 20 years, 21 years even, it has been a normal market. We've had a lot of good years, a couple bad years, kind of indicative of what we can expect in the future if life is normal as we know it. So, and there was great praise for the 401k. At the time, what we kept hearing was there's nothing better than a 401k, free money, right? Makes all the sense in the world. God, the 401k is the best thing ever. But now we're having the first generation that started with the 401k is retiring with the 401k. And now here's what we're hearing. Time Magazine, it's time to retire the 401k. CNBC, plans have fallen short. Entrepreneur, huge thing we'll cover later. Your 401k is your riskiest investment. LA Times, I've tried to go conservative, liberal, you name it. The 401k plan is a failure. Yahoo, the retirement revolution that failed. Why the 401k isn't working. The 401k has failed. CBS Money Watch. So I love this article. They only really address one issue. There's lots of reasons why it's time to retire the 401k. Time went after one reason, and here it is. I'm going to read this portion to you right here. So imagine a worker who earns 100 grand for 30 years. She puts 5% of her income into her 401k. Through most of her working life, the market does pretty well. And what do they consider pretty well? 5% a year on average. Interesting. Remember the number. When she retires, our worker will have 332 grand in her account. Now imagine a second thriftier worker contributing 7.5% of his salary, or 2,500 more a year, to his 401k. But in this scenario, the market does a 2008. In the last year before he retires, and his account drops 30%. And I'll tell you, if his account only dropped 30%, he did pretty darn good. The result, even after saving 50% more a year for 30 years, worker number 2 ended up with a balance of 5 grand less than the first worker. They kind of end it with this: what can be done to fix this mess? And it is a mess. Don't be fooled. It's a mess. Now, they sum it up here. Remember, the biggest factor is whether your 401k works as designed. Has to do with when you retire. If the market rises that year, you're fine. If you retired last year, you're toast. And the chances of you becoming a victim of this huge flaw in the 401k plan are pretty high. Heed the warning, it's pretty high. And their solution is a new type of insurance. We'll cover that in a bit. So let's just recap the problems that we have in the 401k. You have all the market risk. A down year near retirement can be devastating, or after retirement can be devastating. Taxes will come due, and they're most certainly going to go up. Too many variables to know how much income you'll be able to take. We're going to discuss this right to the very end. So let's just imagine you retire unscathed and you've got a nest egg, a couple hundred grand, 400 or 500 grand, whatever your number is. How much can you take out? Because the number one fear people have in retirement is running out of money. And it's a very difficult situation. There's so many variables. So we'll get into that later. Now you have a tax-free Roth account, but you still have the risk. You still have that main problem that Time Magazine was addressing, and you have limited contributions. And income withdrawals in retirement years can drain your account at breakneck speed. And I'll show you a real example of that. So more history. John Bogle, I think he passed away last year. Fantastic article. It's worth reading. The train wreck awaiting American retirement. He started the Vanguard group. And this is, to me, the most stunning thing he says in there. Do you really want to invest? He's talking about 401k investors. Do you really want to invest in a system where you put up 100% of the capital, you, the mutual fund shareholder, because that's what's usually in your 401ks or IRAs, you take 100% of the risk and you get 30% of the return? Oh my gosh, did you realize you were doing so poorly? And so, you know, if you ask most people what they think they're going to earn in their 401k, most people say 7%. You know, some people will say 10% because they're thinking back in the 80s and the 90s. Those days will never come back again. 7% is not going to happen either. And I'll show you that Time Magazine was actually pretty accurate with their 5% being a good rate. But we'll talk about the games that brokers play with that number anyway. So we'll get into that. But how do you like taking all the risk and only getting 30% of the return? Now, Tony Robbins, I like Tony Robbins. He says 8 out of 10 Americans don't know the cost of their plans. So let's stop. Let's hold up a minute. I always think the world of finances is topsy-turvy. It's backwards. It's got the most bizarre laws, and we do the most bizarre things in it. And this is one of them. Anything else in life, you're going to know the cost. And the second thing is, not only are you going to know the cost, but the higher the ticket item, the more due diligence you're going to do. So let's just say you're going on vacation, you're going to fly out, and you're going to go on Priceline, Expedia, you're going to shop around for to save some money on your ticket, right? Who wouldn't do that? You're going to buy a car. What do? Same thing. You go to 2 lots, you go online, you get all the knowledge you can in order to make a proper decision. Buy a house, even more so. But for most folks, the fees in their 401k, the cost of their plan is either the number one or the number two highest expense they will ever pay. 67% believe they're not paying anything. Believe it or not, we had a guy who was paying over $30,000 a year in his fees, and he thought it was free. They told him it was free, and we found out somebody was blowing smoke. All right. Of course it's smoke. Nobody gets a free account. He thought he was getting special treatment. Nothing could be further from the truth. Fees. Now, Tony starts talking about fees. They're eating you alive. So we're going to discuss fees a little bit here. Tony calls them the tyranny of compounding fees. And you could say goodbye to half of your investment due to fees. Did you know that? Did they tell you that when you signed up for your 401k at work? Do you think the people that signed you up for your 401k at work knew this? Of course not. I mean, again, part of the reason I'm doing this is if you and I never see each other again or never talk, you'll take some information that I give you and you will be the wiser for it. And it can literally save you tens of thousands of dollars or more easily with what you're going to hear here. So this to me is a phenomenal subject that blows your mind. Again, this is from the U.S. Department of Labor, the topsy-turvy world of finances. It's a 2 and 23-second video, a look at 401k plan fees. I did a screenshot of it. A 1% difference in fees reduces your account balance by 28%. Now, did you ever think anything was possible? How could 1%, a little 1%, affect your life so much? Guys, this is why we don't get ahead. This is why our retirement is in disarray and we think it's coasted along just fine. We have no idea the rules that we're playing by. We need to be smarter about our money, if nothing else. Okay. Now, this is Tony Robbins again. He quotes somebody. This is an article in Business Insider, a great article, The 9 Myths of Retirement. He quotes Doug Warren on this first part. Baby boomers have been the primary mice used in the great 401k retirement experiment. The bottom line, though, is a stunner. The so-called choices on your 401k plan are not the best available choices. Did you get a choice to sign up for Amazon or Apple or Exxon or Walmart, right? No, you didn't have that choice. What did they do? They gave you a piece of paper, and what did you base your decision on? The name, right? The name. In fact, 60 Minutes did a great one called the Retirement Gamble, and they asked the guy, so what's the quality of the companies listed on in the mutual funds in your 401k? And he said, they're mediocre. Half of them are dogs, but they got great names, you know? And so this is how we've based the future, our retirement years. What did we make our decision on? Check. We'll check that one. We'll skip that one. I like that name, right? So here's who they are. They are the ones who pay the most to be offered on the menu of available funds. And guess how they recoup their cost to be on that list? High fees, of course. So not only are you failing to get the best performing funds, but you're typically paying higher fees for inferior performance. Where else but in finances do you pay more to get a crappy product, right? This is the world of finances. Welcome. Now, I got to tell you a story. It's not really a story, and doggone it, I should have that article in front of me. I hadn't looked at it in a while. I'm pretty sure it was Edward Jones, but in 2007, a big name we all recognize, I think it was EJ. They got sued for $70 million by the SEC for getting kickbacks from companies they were doing business with. Usually the fees come through transaction fees and other things, but they were getting a straight out kickback. And this is how they got out of hot water with the FEC. They said, all right, we've corrected our action. We've now informed our clients of this practice. And where did they do how they do it? They printed it in a page somewhere, probably a couple lines in the prospectus that's that thick, right? They just said in there somewhere, we have a partnership with some companies, yada, yada, yada. And you had no idea what was going on. This is the world of the 401k. All right. So let's talk again about fees. This is from a Forbes article. This was the cost of fees in our retirement accounts. In the qualified account, 3.17% is the average cost of a fee. Remember that number, 3.17. Now, here's the real secret to growing money. And this is one you probably never heard of in all your life, and it's the most important one there is. The reason you don't hear it is because if you really understood this concept, Fidelity and Edward Jones, Merrill Lynch, all these companies would, their stock would be going down the hill, okay? So this is the real secret to growing your money. Lose less. Now, let me prove it to you in a number of ways. So company A, firm number A, they boast their clients are averaging 6.2%. All right. We've got a client comes in, drops $1 million now. In the first year, man, he's thrilled, made 60% on his money. Year two, lost 40%. Now, the yields, he gained more than he lost, right? But how did he end up? Do the math. He's $40,000 underwater, and he made a 10% rate of return. So you tell me how you can make a 10% rate of return and lose money at the same time. It's easy. It happens all the time. These are the games they play with us. And this is why we don't get ahead, is because they boast the rate of return, and the number they give you is a meaningless number. Now let's look at firm B. They boast a little bit more conservative, 6% for their clients. Client comes in, puts $1 million down in firm B, didn't make as much the first year, 30%, lost a lot less the second year at 10%, ended up with $1.1 million up and more, right? Same 10% return on their money. So you tell me how you can get the same return of money, and one you're losing money and the other you're gaining money. In fact, you're gaining a $210,000 difference between firm A and firm B. And they have the better average. Why? Because firm B loses less money. Okay. And this average rate of return is a bogus number. I'll explain that to you in just a little bit. Lose less, make more. Okay. Now, let me kind of back out of here and let me pull up, this is really fascinating, a spreadsheet. And what I'm going to show you, you can read my next slide. 95% of professionals can't do what I'm going to show you. They can't beat the S&P 500. Tony Robbins says it's 96%, and it's a different 4% every year. So what I'm showing you here, you didn't do this good, or at least 96% of you didn't do this good. But this is the example I'm going to show you. So the red side is what you're doing. This is the plan you're in right now. It's the S&P 500 index. It's managed money. It's you get all the ups and all the downs, all the gains and all the losses. It's your 401k, it's your IRA, it's the 403b, you name it. This is where your money is today. The B product, I call it a cap and a floor product. This is the product Time Magazine was talking about, the new type of insurance. Now, it's got a floor of 0, which means you'll never go below 0. You never lose a dime. And it's got a cap of 11.5. We can do higher, but this is what I use as a conservative illustration. 11.5. And you know what? 11.5 doesn't look too good in a lot of years. Look at this. In 2003, you'd have made 26% in your 401k. We'd only got you 11.5. All right. 2009, 23% on your side. On my side, 11.5. Not too good. Look at this. Check out 2013, 30% just about. We only got 11.5. One more year. 29% in 2019. We only got 11.5. Why in the world would you ever go on the blue side? Well, let's look and see what happens. The first 2 years, you've lost money, 34 grand in the hole. Notice the blue side didn't lose a dime. It kind of holds the high water mark from year to year, locks in the gains. Now, the market starts coming back in 2007. 2008 hits and bam, rinse and repeat, right? You're 32 grand in the hole again. On this side, 144,000. Let's take it through for 20 years. We end at the end of last year. Oh, sorry. We're at $284,000 on your 401k side, $377,000 on the blue side. Where would you rather have your money? Where you have it or with me? All right. But wait, there's a lot left to learn here, and we're not done by any stretch. Now, remember, time said a pretty good investment was 5%. Actually, the real rate of return was 5.37. All right. This is the real number. You started with 100 grand. You ended up with 284 grand. It was a 5.37 yield, a real true yield. Here we had almost 6.9. Let's call it 5.4 and 6.9. Okay. But here's the average rate of return. Remember we talked about average rate of returns, how bogus they are? 7% average rate of return. This is what most people think. They're going to get 7% out of their 401k. And it's true. It's an average rate of return, but it's a bogus number. Let me show you another way that you can see why this is such a bogus number. Look at the orange section up here. You got 100 grand. You invested in the market. First year, you double your money, got 200,000. Year two, you start with 200,000. You lost 50%. Where are you? You're back at start, right? You started with 100, you ended with 100. The average rate of return, 25%. 100 minus 50 is 50 divided by 2 is 25. But the real rate of return is 0. It didn't grow any. So this is the number they throw out. This is the number you get on your yearly reviews, the little pie charts. They'll tell you the average rate of return. Throw it in the trash. It doesn't mean anything. It's a worthless number. It doesn't tell you jack. Okay. Where did it start? Where did it end up? That's all that matters. Okay. So again, this is something everybody needs to be aware of. Average rates of return do not matter. Okay. All right, let's get back. Oh no, let's get back. We're not done because we haven't talked about the cost of these plans. Okay. So we got 284 on your side, 377,000 on my side. But look, we've got a cost to deduct. And my side, there's premiums over the 20-year period, 45 grand. On this side, you've got fees. I put it at 2%. Do you remember what I told you? Remember the average cost according to Forbes, 3.17. I'm being very conservative. Taxes, I think I'm just trying to shoot you straight. I think it'll be 33% for most folks easily by the time they retire. When it's all said and done, you get to spend, you start with 100 grand, 20 years later, you get to spend, and that's all that matters, 154,000. Over here, 332,000. Now, which would you rather have? Money where you got it or money with me? Now, let's say your fees are 3%. What happens then? Oh, did it take? My mouse gets a little bit shaky when I start running and recording. All right, so now you only have 137,000 to spend. Any way you look at it, we're more than almost 2.5 times the amount. But wait, you got some free money out of this, didn't you? Did it help? Nope. You know, you're still coming up less, a lot less than this side, which is safe money. It's tax-free money. Okay, and tax-free is huge. We'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, so let's pick back up where we left off. That red side, as you recall, 95 to 96% will not be doing as good as what I showed you. So I'm really showing you very optimistic, and very conservative from my end. All right, now the tax-free plan. It's impervious to market risk, never loses a dime. It's tax-free income for life. Now, let's stop and talk about this for a minute, what tax-free means. Tax-free has really two really big implications when we're talking retirement planning. Number one, it means, let's say you have an emergency. say you got a business deal, you want to buy into a business, you need to scrape up some money. You're going to take it from your 401k? Not a chance. You got a 10% penalty on top of that, right? It's not liquid. You're not going to be able to touch it unless special circumstances as allowed by the government. But with the tax-free money, you can use it at any point, at any time, for any reason. Really nice. The second thing is, did you realize, and most people don't, when you start drawing an income out of your 401k, it can cause taxation on your Social Security. Now, I say it can cause because I don't know if you're taking out $1 a year or if you're going to take out $20,000 a year. So I can only use generalities, but here's the deal. Up to 85% of your Social Security can be taxed as you take money out. All right. So you've got a double taxation. Not only are you paying higher taxes in the future because you're kicking that can down the road, but it's going to cause your Social Security to be taxed. I'm telling you, this plan, you thought it was put in for your benefit, and guess whose benefit qualified plans are really designed for? The government, to bring in more tax money. Don't be fooled, people. They didn't have your best interest at heart. And you know how I know that's true is because 22% of the top 1% in the country have the plan I'm talking about. All right. The wealthy, ultra wealthy, they use it. They know about it. There's no limits on contribution. Again, that's why the wealthy love it. Has a death benefit in case you die early. Not counted on the FAFSA. Money grows even after it's spent. Now, this is a gigantic benefit. It sounds insane, and you probably think I've lost my mind or I'm going to shoot smoke up your behind. But let me tell you just how important and how huge this is. Let me back out and go to my little spreadsheet again. And this time we'll look at the blue section. All right. So here's the deal. You take money out of your 401k or IRA or savings account, poof, it's gone, right? You spent it. That's what we expect. But not with us, because you don't actually withdraw your money. We're giving you a loan. The company's giving you a loan. Now, you may say, oh, whoa, John, loan is a 4-letter word. You're doing the same thing the government is doing. They're going to penalize us if we take money out early. You're going to penalize us if we take money out early. Oh, no, a world of difference. Because with our loan, it creates an arbitrage where you make money even after you spend it, because the cost of the loan is low and the growth is higher than the cost of the loan. So here's an example, just so you can see numbers. 6.87 is what I showed you in that spreadsheet. We've had a 3% loan rate forever. No telling how far it goes back. So let's say you got $500,000 in your account. You turn 65, you're drawing an income of $20,000 a year out. You spend that money. Year 2, you don't have $480,000 in there. You still have $500,000 because it's a loan. So it continues to grow, but at a lesser rate. In this case, it would grow at 3.87%. Okay. The account is growing at 6.87. The loan is 3%. So you could, for 20 years, it could be growing at almost 4%, money that you spent 20 years ago. Now, is that an insanely good prospect or what? I mean, it's just so good. It's hard to comprehend. It's a brilliant plan. This is one of the reasons we're able to take out so much more in retirement, because money you withdraw continues to grow at a lesser rate as an arbitrage. It's absolutely phenomenal. So let's get back to our presentation. Didn't quite finish on this one. Current slide. Sorry, gotta repeat again. Let's catch up. All right, money grows after it's spent. And you also have a lump sum left to take care of your death benefits. All right, so there's a death benefit also when you die. It never runs out of money, I guess is what I'm saying. All right, now we talked about how to grow money faster, better, safer. And here's the thing. I run into a lot of people who are playing catch up. They realize they're behind the 8 ball. They don't have as much time as they hoped they had. And so it's all about higher average rate of return, right? And so I proved to you that if you're safer money, you will do better than a higher average rate of return. Safer money is how you grow money. But how about when we spend money? All right. There's two phases there's actually three phases in retirement. We call it accumulation phase. All right. You're contributing, you're adding to it. You're not worried about losses so much. When you think of it like a mountain, you're climbing that mountain. When you get near the peak, then it's called the preservation phase. You don't want to lose the money. At that point, you got to hold on to it. You did a good job of growing it. You can't lose it. You start pulling more safety in your portfolio. On the downhill, that's when what trips everybody up. It's a different set of rules when you're taking money out. And think about it. Do you ever get hurt falling up the stairs, right? No, you get hurt falling down the stairs. More people die Mount Everest on the descent. Different set of rules. Things accelerate on the downhill, and spending money accelerates when you're withdrawing money. So here's how you grow more money when you're spending it. It's through the loan. Now, I got to move this slide out of here. Sorry, it's in the wrong order, but I keep forgetting to do it. But I showed you that we could grow the money on that blue cap and floor product at 6.87%. But actually, we can do better than that. We have a private index we use. There are several companies. Some use Barclays, some use Merrill Lynch to do it. We hire these companies out to put together a private index that is more actively managed than yours is, and they have a higher rate of return. This one, 10 years back, you could see the right-hand column, 8.11. 15-year look back is 7.1. That's the lowest. 20-year look back, 7.68. All right. I don't like the 25 and 29 year. It's into the roaring 20. So 7.68 is a better number to use. Okay. But here's the real danger in retirement. It's losing money to the market while you're making withdrawals. So let me show you two examples of this. Okay. Let me get back into a spreadsheet. Okay. And by the way, 7.68 was actually the growth that we're doing. So actually you wouldn't make 3.87 in this example. You would make over 4.5% on money you spent. But let me show you now, spending money in retirement. Again, I'm going to prove it to you with numbers. And this is something your folks won't ever do. Your stockbroker, your guy that comes in, does the annual review, he'll never show you real numbers like these. So here's an example of somebody who's got $500,000 and he wants an income of $20,000 a year. He's 65 years old. He's going to divide his money into two buckets, the growth bucket and the safe bucket. Okay. The blue bucket is the growth bucket. The green bucket is the safe bucket. Okay. But here's the difference in the safe bucket. It's not a capital floor product, but it's a similar, and we have variations depending on the need. This has the floor of 0, but the participation rate means it's only participating in half of the gains. Okay. So as you see in year 1, the market made 26% plus. Here, we only made 13% plus. Year 2, almost 20%. We only made not quite 10%. So you get the idea. It's not about high growth rate, folks. It's about losing less money, and on the downside, even more so. So let's look at what happens after 20 years. 167,000 here, 415,000 here. Had the same amount of withdrawals, the same stock market returns, almost 3 times the money in withdrawal on the downside. Where would you rather have your money? On the green side or in that 401k where it is? This is just insane that we've never been taught these concepts. It's almost criminal because, again, I'm a capitalist. I love capitalism, but I'm telling you the things that Wall Street does, and I'm in the financial sector, I think it's almost criminal. I really do, because we've never been taught these things, and I think for a reason, to cover their own butts. All right. They're making money and we're not. So here's a side-by-side comparison of real numbers. And I guess I've got a mouse, but it always doesn't show up very good on this side of the screen for some reason. So this blue side over here is the tax-free side. All right. The blue side is a managed account. Could be Edward Jones, Merrill Lynch, your 401k, your IRA, you name it. Okay. We got $1 million over here. We want to withdraw 40 grand a year. That's this column here. 20 years later, they got $800,000 of income. What happened with their balance? It grew. It continued to grow. It doubled in money after sucking money out of it like crazy. They still doubled their money. Let's look what happens on your side. They wanted to spend 40 just like we did, but guess what? Taxes are due. Because you know what? When you have a 401k or an IRA, you have a partner in retirement. You know who that partner is? The IRS. Why in the world would you ever want to retire with the IRS in your back pocket as a partner? Because when the time comes, they're going to squeeze every penny out of you that they can. You know it's true. So in this example, they actually have to withdraw, my mouse is scrolly again, $57,000 because they got to pay 17 grand in taxes. There we go. So they can spend the 40. But let's look what happens. They start with $1 million. They have the same stock market we went through. Year 19, guess what? Out of money. Ran out of money in year 19. Which side would you rather have your money? Would you rather have it on the safe side, tax-free side, where the money doubled, or would you rather take a chance on running out of money in retirement? I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. So I talked early about the problem of retirement. There's so many variables in an account with risk. You've got risk, you got taxation, you got fees. There's all these things, and it's a jumble, and it's hard to decide how much can I live off of. And every financial professional knows this rule. They'll never tell you about it, but they all know with it, and virtually all of them agree with it. The history says, and again, I'm talking history and statistics, that if you withdrew 4% of your money a year, you'll never run out of money. That's even if the market turns bad on you, unless we really have some unusual circumstances. So in the history of the stock market, you could take out 4% a year, never run out of money. The rule of 25 is not so commonly used. It's kind of a way of just reverse engineering. So if you wanted an income of 30 grand a year, you look over the rule of 25, you realize your nest egg better grow to $750,000. Okay. Now, 4%, you know how small that is? You got 100 grand. You're going to live off 4% a year off of 100 grand. What does that pay? The light bill? Doesn't even pay the light bill. My house, I don't know about you. Oh my gosh, that's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. You work all your life. You put up with all the scary times and the 2008s and the market's up and down, and you're worried, and you retire, and you finally retire, and that's all you get to spend. Oh my God. And I'll show you how much more we get to spend. I'm going to make you this offer. All right. Knowledge is power. That's why I'm educating you. And so I want to give you as much information as possible. Right now, it's just been general information, and general information is helpful. And hopefully, again, if you and I never meet, you may not be able to implement everything I taught you here. If your 401k is at work, you can't control the fees. If you've got an IRA, you can, so there are some things you can use that you can apply, other things you can't. Other things I hope you'll remember down the road, you'll apply when you're able to. But I want to give you as much knowledge as you can for you right now. And the only way to do that is to personalize this, I'm going to make you an offer to see if the tax-free retirement account will work for you. And I want to compare that to what you're doing. So let me give you an example. Last example, then I'll be done. Okay. Hopefully, hope you'll learn something, and you like what you're seeing, or you may not like it. It's funny. I did a presentation this week, and you see how my mouse is, well, you can't really tell, but it lags behind. And so it's hard for me to hit the buttons. And so I ended a presentation the other day, just a couple of days ago, 2 days ago. And I stopped my screen sharing, and I'm trying to hit the end presentation button, and my mouse is kind of floating along. And the guy is talking. He doesn't realize we're still online. And he's saying, honey, our 401k sucks, you know? And he's like, oh my God, I can't believe, you know? So I don't know why I was telling you that. But again, you know, I want to show you real numbers here. And until you see it in your numbers, it may not mean too much. But here's my offer to you to see. There's two things I can show you. One is if you stay the course, you keep doing what you're doing. So here's what I did for a 32-year-old as an example, just left up. He's contributing $642 a month in his account, and he gets a match on 43% of that. And so each year between him and the company, there's $11,000 going in. And remember, the match is important, right? That's why we love the 401k. We love that match. So that means that the total investment for his entire lifetime is going to be, he contributes and his company $385,000. Now, tax rate doesn't affect him at this point, 7.3%. Again, that's a very likely number. It's going to change year to year, okay? But on the average, this is about what you're going to see. It's 5.37. 2% fees. I could go higher and kind of make it look better for me, but I'm trying to be fair here. So 2%. So this guy here was 32 years old, wanted to retire at 67, 35 years to invest. This is, if he stays the course where he is, this is how much money he would have, $723,000. And this alone, to me, would be worth it, because you want to have an idea, if you keep doing what you're doing, where you'll be, right? Because that's the problem. Nobody really tells you anything accurate. If your guy does an annual review with you and he's using average rates of return, guess what? It's bogus, right? So here's what I could do for him. I could get him almost $58,000 of tax-free money every year. All right, so I'm bump the tax rate up. Let's say he retires with taxes at 25% between state and federal, and he takes out $57,000 like I can get him. He'll run out of money in 11 years. 11 years, folks. Now, what if the taxes do go up? What if they go up to 40%, right? What if fees go up? Let's just say taxes go up to 35%. Guess what? It runs out of money at age 76. So I'm going to show you where you'll be if you hold the course. And then I'd like to show you what I can do for you. So that's my offer. In order to do that, I need some information from you. We can talk about that in person, but that's kind of what I wanted to show you. Give you some history, give you some real examples, some real knowledge, and see if you'd like to know what your numbers look like. If you do, please get back with me. I'll be glad to help you any way I can. Thanks for watching.